become the home of Bob Marley and Usain Bolt. That's Shelley and Fraser Price, you know. A rich history of our culture, you know, and just the vibes of the people. So that makes me proud.
Jamaica is a land that produces the best runner, the best food, greenery, the best beaches. I mean, our culture alone make me proud to be a Jamaican.
It's Tuesday, July 19. In the headlines, a doctor wants rapid testing mandate for monkeypox. Regionally in Belize, a national child labor policy is launched. And in sports, Shanika secures medal number 4 for Jamaica. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I am Simone Absalom Gale. The Ministries of Justice and Education and Youth are on a mission to teach Jamaicans best practices on how to resolve conflict, how to avoid the use of violence through restorative justice workshops for students, teachers, and parents. The ministries partnered to train participants in a recent 2-day workshop, and a ceremony was held last Friday to recognize the participants.
2,398 participants across 81 schools participated in the 2-day workshop benefiting from conflict resolution sessions. During the workshop, participants were taught about taking an anti-violent approach to conflict, whereby all the parties with a stake in a particular offense are trained to resolve conflicts collectively. Coordinator of National Restorative Justice in the Ministry of Justice, Adrian Lindsay, shared the observation of a parent.
What she was saying is that, usually with her, she had 3 children, and she was saying usually with her 3 children, she's quite an aggressive parent, she's short-tempered, and she would snap very quickly. And she was saying, after the 2 days training, she had got new tools to learn how to deal with behavior and to manage the relationships that she had with her children. That was one, and I also spoke with principals as well who expressed the same thing, that they wanted to implement restorative practices in their schools so that instead of students being suspended, all the time, and that high level of suspensions we see in schools, we try to manage the behavior, change the behavior, work with the children and the parents to really implement the things that had been taught over the last 2 days that they had experienced. So that was really refreshing for me.
Education and Youth Minister Favour Williams says teaching students about conflict resolution will prove useful as they grow into adults.
We can't continue to use violence as the first resort. Anything, we run for the knife, the stone, the gun. We have not learned how to just sit down and talk it out, even if we disagree at the end of it, to walk away. We can agree to come back to it again another time. We don't know how to breeze off, to not respond, to just walk off a little bit and let some time pass before we react to things.
Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Justice, Grace Ann Stewart McFarlane, says replicating the workshop would prove to be a positive move.
We are hoping that conflict resolution will be resonated right across the nation, and very soon we are hoping that conflict resolution will cause persons not to get so angry about minor things, and we all within the home, within the school, and all spaces will learn how to interact with each other and reduce the reaction with violence.
In May, the Ministries of Justice and Education and Youth signed a Memorandum of Understanding to facilitate the workshop involving 3,120 participants across 104 schools. Phase 1 of the workshop commenced on May 9 and was concluded on July 1, 2022. Reporting for PBCJ News, I'm Raquel Robinson.
Just about 6,000 youngsters from across Jamaica have been employed through the government's Youth Summer Employment Program, YSEP. The national initiative was officially launched recently by Prime Minister Andrew Holness and Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, Desmond McKenzie. YSEP participants who will begin work on August 8 will be placed in public sector organizations. The students will earn $10,000 weekly, with team leaders earning $11,000 per week. Prime Minister Andrew Holness and President of Guyana, Dr. Irfan Ali, will pay official visits to Trinidad and Tobago next month. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley made the announcement on Monday.
On the 18th of August, Dr. Irfan Ali, President of Guyana, will be making a state visit to Trinidad and Tobago on the 18th of August. And he is doing so on the eve of what is part 2 of the CARICOM Agricultural Investment Forum that is taking place in Trinidad. That will take place on the 19th. We move immediately into our independence celebration. And this year, Prime Minister Holness has finally accepted our invitation to visit us. This is an invitation that has been extended since I made that visit to Jamaica early in my tenure.
Mr. Holness will participate in celebrations to mark the Twin Island Republic's 60th anniversary of political independence from Britain on August 31. New information is indicating that monkeypox virus is mutating and at a faster rate than expected. The Center for Biosecurity Studies at the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus has been monitoring the trends and examining the recent data. Speaking about the level of mutation, Director Dr. Kirk Douglas is advocating for a rapid testing mandate to be introduced to counter any potential spread and break the chains of transmission.
With this particular monkeypox, the strains that they've actually sequenced from this outbreak, what we're seeing is that I think from one report, it's about 12 times faster than what they would expect in terms of the mutation rate. What does this mean in terms of, is it then having an impact in terms of pathogenicity, or in terms of the ability to cause more severe disease? That remains to be seen. And that is why it's going to be very important, one, to do testing and to do quick, rapid testing in order to identify individuals who are infectious. So this is at the stage where they have the potential to infect and transmit the virus to someone else.
Dr. Douglas is, however, of the view that the predominant spread of the virus has been seen in a specific at-risk population. He believes the stigma associated will pose a challenge for individuals who need treatment for monkeypox.
When you see someone with monkeypox, the first stigma that you will associate with it is something negative. Then persons who may have been exposed, who may have become infected, then kind of shy away from seeking medical attention to actually, get stuff done. And then also to isolate and to keep themselves away so that they don't also infect people. And also in terms of contact tracing, those persons that they would have come into contact with, then those persons need obviously to be traced, to be monitored. And again, it comes back down again to testing, rapid testing to identify persons who are infectious so that they can be isolated. And then once the course of the infection is completed, then the person now is actually immune to monkeypox. And then the disease then resolves after a while.
COVID-19 is still being transmitted. New variants are still surfacing. The Omicron variants are the most transmissible of the coronavirus. In this episode of Living Healthy, we're going to give you more answers to several questions like, what do we know so far about subvariants of Omicron, and are they more severe? We'll hear from the World Health Organization's technical lead for COVID-19, Dr. Maria Vankakov.
Let's start with the subvariants of Omicron that we are seeing so far. What do we know about them?
So hi, Vismita. There are many subvariants of Omicron, all classified as Omicron and variants of concern that WHO is tracking. Actually, many of them. The ones that we are focusing on right now are particularly BA.4, BA.5, and BA.2.75. Now, there are several other sublineages that we are tracking at a global level, but I want to reiterate that all of the sublineages of Omicron are classified as variants of concern. Each one of these variants, each iteration of SARS-CoV-2 are of concern for WHO because this virus is circulating at such an intense level globally.
Maria, what do we know about the transmissibility and the severity of these subvariants?
So with regards to the sublineages of Omicron, with BA.4 and BA.5, these are the most transmissible variants that we have seen yet. In fact, BA.5 has a growth advantage over the other sublineages that have been detected. With regards to severity, we have not seen an increase in severity of people infected with BA.5 compared to the other sublineages, BA.1, BA.2, for example. But this is based on our ability to assess this at a global level. It's based on data that is shared with WHO that's collected by surveillance officers, medical professionals, people around the world. And that data is becoming more and more limited. I just want to mention BA.2.75. At the present time, we have very few sequences of this particular sublineage that are available publicly. But we are concerned about this sublineage as well.
Maria, what are the trends we are seeing with these subvariants?
So we are seeing an increase in case detections around the world. In fact, more than 5.7 million cases were reported to WHO last week, and those are of the cases that we know about. And that is an underestimate because surveillance activities have declined drastically around the world, including testing. Although self-testing is increasing in many countries, that's not captured by surveillance systems. We do see an increase in the proportion of cases that are BA.5. That has grown over the last 4 weeks, and we expect that trend to continue. So some countries are starting to see an increase, another wave of activity of SARS-CoV-2.
In the business report, we have your regular market updates, and we take another look at Statin's latest economic report. Dinida Rodney is at the business desk.
According to new data released by the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, in the month of June, the country had a 0.8% interest rate increase in the price of goods and services. Director General of Statin, Carol Coy, on Friday gave a breakdown of the factors that contributed to the increase.
This increase was mainly impacted by the 1.7% increase in the index for the heaviest weighted division, which is the food and non-alcoholic beverages. All classes within this division registered increases for the review period, with the main contributors being oils and fats of 2.5%, vegetables, tubers, plantains, cooking bananas, which went up by 2.2%, cereal and cereal products up by 1.9%, meat and other parts of slaughtered land animals went up by 1.8%. Additionally, the index for the transport division rose by 0.9%, and this was mainly influenced by higher costs for fuel. The overall movement of the CPI was, however, tempered by the 0.5% decline in the index for the division housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels. This decline was attributable to the reduction in electricity, water, and sewage rates.
Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Monday, July 18, the US dollar sold for an average of $152.77. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $117.44. The pound sterling traded for $182.47, and the euro sold for an average of $156.08. The following reflects the movement of the Gsc Indices in Monday's trading session. The Gsc Index advanced by 1,063 points to close at over 300,000 units. The Junior Market Index declined by 25 points to close at over 4,000 units. The Combined Market Index advanced by 760 points to close at over 300,000 units. And the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 982 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 109 stocks, of which 45 advanced, 52 declined, and 12 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 1834 Investments Limited, Orita Investments Limited, and CAC 2000 9.5% cumulative redeemable preferred shares. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Variable Preference, Jamaica Boilers Group, and Jamaica Public Service Company 9.5%. The overall volume leaders were Dollar Financial Services Limited with over 3 million units, Wigton Wind Farm Limited Ordinary Shares with over 2 million units, and Spirtree Spices Jamaica Limited with over 800,000 shares. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Clique Investment Fund was the only active security posting over 12,000 shares. Zero securities were traded on the Barbados Stock Exchange. In market data for oil prices fell 2% after soaring more than $5 a barrel in the previous session, weighed by fears that an economic slowdown will hit oil demand, but tight supplies and a weaker dollar curbed some losses. Brent crude futures fell $1.62 to $104.65, and West Texas Intermediate crude futures fell $1.87 to $100.73 a barrel. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, CARICOM will be providing humanitarian aid to Haitians displaced by a recent spike in gang violence. Barbados' ambassador to CARICOM, David Comishong, made the announcement during the Conversations on CARICOM segment of CBC's TV show Morning Barbados. Ambassador Comishong says CARICOM's decision to help was one of the outcomes of a special meeting held on Friday by the recently constituted CARICOM Leadership Group on Haiti.
We are now waiting on the administration in Haiti to tell us exactly what they want, and you're going to see a humanitarian drive across CARICOM to help, but also that we are going to establish one or two high-level special envoys on Haiti, and they're going to be engaged in, first of all, a virtual meeting with stakeholders across Haiti that will lead ultimately to a major face-to-face meeting, hopefully in the Bahamas, with a high-level political group from CARICOM. So you're talking heads of government, so that CARICOM is going to make a very serious effort to bring a political Haitian-led resolution to this crisis.
In addition, Suriname, as a chair of CARICOM, hosted a meeting of international partners and raised $298 million in commitments for Haiti. The Cayman Islands government has launched a national campaign to raise awareness of the support available for the community as a cost of living escalates.
The entire world is experiencing an exponential rise in cost of living expenses. We're undoubtedly going through one of the most challenging times in recent history, and we as a government, but also each of us in the community, must prepare for the possibility that it may be some time before it gets better. Although global inflation was already on the rise before the COVID-19 pandemic hit, it has become more of an issue in the past year.
The awareness campaign is geared towards our most vulnerable in our society, including our senior citizens, post-secondary students, and others who have been significantly impacted by the cost of living. Premier Panton noted that he and his fellow colleagues have introduced more than 24 different initiatives to assist those currently withstanding the worst of the crisis. the displaced tourism worker stipend, increased scholarship funding, the electricity relief assistance package, and extension of the pension holiday are but a few of those initiatives. While it has to be acknowledged that the government does not have considerable leverage to help fight inflation, governments say they are committed with private sector partners where possible to taking an income-based, cost-based approach to help offset the impact of rising cost of living expenses on individuals and their families.
In Belize, the government is moving towards strategically addressing the scores of child labor across the country. A 2013 study shows that approximately 5,000 children are engaged in some form of work that presents real danger to their physical, mental, and moral well-being.
We must protect them.
The Ministry of Labor, in collaboration with the International Labour Organization, today launched its National Labour Policy and Strategy 2022-2025. Within the pages of the document are key data on the child labour situation in Belize based on surveys conducted over the last 2 decades. Minister of Labour Oscar Kenya was the keynote speaker at today's launch.
The policy speaks to what is considered safe work for children, because let's be real, our children need to be taught to value work. They need to value, the ethics of work, because it's important. The only way we are going to build a nation is to build strong, healthy children who also have a good work ethic. But for children, the policy distinguishes what is considered light work, what is safe work that children can do.
In Belize, children above the age of 14 can be legally employed, but they must only engage in light work. This is defined as work that is not likely to be hazardous to their health or development, and work that does not prevent their attendance at school. The International Labour Organization defines hazardous child labor as work which is likely to harm the health, safety, or morals of children. In 2013, ILO found that approximately 5,000 children between the ages of 5 to 17 years old in Belize were engaged in some form of labor. Of that number, close to 4,000 were engaged in hazardous labor. UNICEF Belize has played a key role in the development of this policy.
The consequences of child labor on children are devastating, with lifetime effects. It compromises children's education and limits their future opportunities, deepening cycles of poverty. Child labor violates the rights of every child to be a child and to grow up free from exploitation, abuse, and violence.
The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service says the recent increase in criminal activity may be supported by state resources. This, according to Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, who met with Acting Commissioner of Police McDonald Jacob and officials from the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, as well as other national security experts over the weekend.
The police is convinced that the upsurge in criminal conduct and the ability of persons to arm themselves and challenge the state and upset the population in the way that is happening is supported by some shortcomings on the part of the state with respect to the availability of sustained funding for the criminal element through the use of state resources, not the least of which is illegal quarrying.
Speaking during Monday's press conference, Dr. Rowley said the issuance of contracts has spurred an increase in criminal activity as gang members fight for turf and resources. He said the state will take the relevant action to ensure the situation is curtailed and eliminated by targeting the young people among the population. Dr. Rowley said various ministries are already at work, adding that the plan of action will be delivered using a public health approach.
We will identify the causes and the risk factors. We will design a response, and we will test the interventions that we are going to make, and we will implement and scale up the effective interventions and support continuous evaluation.
In sports, Jamaica has added another medal to its tally at the World Athletics Championships. This after Shanika Ricketts took silver in the women's triple jump in Eugene, Oregon in the USA on Monday evening. Jamaica now holds 4 medals, 1 gold, 2 silvers and a bronze. Jamaicans sit at 4th place in the medal table, USA, Ethiopia and Kenya presenting 1st to 3rd respectively. Ricketts leapt to a season's best 14.89 meters to take the second spot behind Olympic champion and world record holder Yulimar Rojas, who produced 15.47 meters for the gold. Kimberly Williams, also Jamaican, placed 7th in 14.29 meters. Securing their semi-final places in the 200 meters are 100-meter champion Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, clocking 22.26 seconds, Sharika Jackson 22.33, and Elaine Thompson-Herrera 22.41. In the men's 200 meters, Rashid Dwyer was the fastest Jamaican qualifier to the semi-finals with a season's best 20.29. 2012 Olympic silver medalist Johan Blake also secured a semi-final spot after clocking 20.35 seconds. Akeem Bloomfield with 20.56 did not advance to the semi-finals. The match to determine who will take third place in the 2022 CONCACAF Women's Championship ended with Jamaica taking a late goal in extra time, taking down Costa Rica 1-0 on Monday. Near misses and saves meant that for the first time in the CONCACAF Women's Championship, a match had to go into extra time. The goal finally came in the 102-minute with Kelisa Van Zenten scoring the first goal of the night. In the 117th minute, Fabiola Villalobos had the last chance for Costa Rica, but Rebecca Spencer was ready to stop her shot to nail down the Jamaican victory. In the final match, USA versus Canada, it was Team USA who took down Canada 1-0 to become the CWC champions. With the victory, the US have qualified for both the 2024 Paris Olympics and the 2024 Women's Gold Cup. Runners-up Canada will take on third-place finishers Jamaica in the Olympic play-in series next year. Qatar has built 7 new stadiums specifically for the World Cup, which begins on November 21. The stadiums hosting the first World Cup in the Middle East are considered architectural mirrors of Arab culture and heritage.
The stadiums of the first World Cup in the Middle East are architectural mirrors of Arab culture and heritage. A tent used by Bedouins. An ivory cap worn by pious Muslim boys and men. A gold-colored handicraft.
We've invested a lot during the design stage prior to the construction to make sure that whatever is being built for the tournament is being kept for the legacy and the local needs and even the local league needs.
Welcome to Lusail Stadium, home to the final match and the closing ceremony. Up to 86,000 fans will enjoy unobstructed views of the field. The roof contains 1.5 times the amount of steel as the Eiffel Tower.
In terms of an experience, purely from a sporting point of view, it'll be unprecedented and really spectacular. I can't emphasize that word enough.
Stadium 974 is the first venue in FIFA history that will disappear. The 974 recycled shipping containers will be dismantled to give way to additional waterfront development after the World Cup.
The beauty of this stadium is that it will have many more opening games in different countries and different cultures and in different locations, but also become, I think, the first stadium in the world which has this overpowering sustainability statement to it.
In addition to Stadium 974, seats and components of other venues will be donated to developing countries in need of sport infrastructure. But the nonprofit group Carbon Market Watch says to offset emissions, the material would need to be used multiple times, especially if shipped thousands of kilometers away. By using recycled materials, reducing construction costs, and developing green and living spaces near stadiums, Qatar is hoping it created monuments to sustainability that will inspire future World Cup hosts. Natasha Ghanem, Al Jazeera, Doha.
And that's the news on PBC Jamaica. Follow us on all our social media pages at PBC Jamaica. Remember, we are the People's Station.